I'm 24 years old, and I've never been diagnosed with body dysmorphia, if that's, the protocol, but I would say that I have suffered with it since I kind of started puberty.
How long have you been suffering from binge eating, and how often does it come up?
So I have probably suffered since I was about 14. And it was something that I didn't necessarily connect with. I didn't necessarily think it was a thing, obviously, at the age of 14, but it was something that I just casually did. I started eating more if I got a bit more emotional. If things got stressful, I'd just pick up eating more. I'd put on more weight than, fellow peers. And then that kind of continued to a point in my life where I didn't eat anything and I drastically lost weight. And then that period ended, and then I kind of relived binge eating. But it wasn't until February of this year that I kind of got some confirmation from the doctors that this was something that was happening, that it was binge eating. And then after that, it's been a lot of self-research to kind of look into why I binge eat and the signs that I am doing it, and not just me eating or more of this. It's been recently more me trying to figure out when particularly I am doing it. But I'd say at the moment I've been okay. I've been in a really good period, but before that moment, I would have probably said I'd have done it a few times a month, bare minimum, but it could go up to a lot more than that on really stressful periods.
Do you think that body dysmorphia came first?
So I definitely body dysmorphia when I was like probably about 10 years old, and it kind of started when I started growing breasts. I'm a lot curvier than most women. I'm definitely plus size. So when I was about 10, I grew breasts really quickly, and that just hit me totally different because a lot of my classmates didn't have breasts. So straight away, I was really having to kind of work through that in my mind and think, why am I so different to other people? And that really kind of impacted my body in a really negative way. Like even wearing a bra into like your PE lessons, and everyone's like, why are you wearing a bra when you're like 10 years old? And I'm like, well, I have to cover myself now, apparently. That's something I have to do according to my mum and my teachers. And that just kind of carried on with me. And it wasn't until so that period where I lost a lot of weight because I wasn't eating as much, which was like a purposeful thing. I went down to like a size 8, and during that time I probably thought I was like a size 18 and a size 20, and we went on holiday and it was like 35 degrees, and I wouldn't take any of my clothes off because I was just so convinced I was like nigh on obese and I couldn't go in the pool or anything, and in fact I was like a size 8. So it's definitely something that it's been consistent throughout, but it's kind of transformed and grown in like different ways as I've grown older and looked at my body differently. But it's definitely something that's been very consistent.
When do you think you started to put a name on it?
It not necessarily on holiday. It was when I came back and my mum was telling people like I was absolutely insane and I was still wearing my clothes in 35-degree heat because she found it funny that I thought I was fat even though I was size 8, and she found it like joking about like, oh, you've been even wearing clothes and you think you're fat and you've got nothing but to you, those kind of jokes. And you kind of start thinking about that and being like, but that was like a huge thing for me. That was really traumatic for me, thinking I was that size, and then to have it joked about, it completely felt like those emotions were invalid when I did keep my clothes on. And then so I kind of understood then there was something going on, like emotionally and mentally. But it wasn't until I started doing some more self-research alongside binge eating disorder this year that I have really understood what body dysmorphia means and how it has appeared in my life. So yeah, it's been a very like recent kind of understanding of it.
Do you think it would have been easier for you if you knew what body dysmorphia was?
Yeah, definitely. I think having that conversation would have been incredibly useful, because maybe not as an intense conversation as going, this is what body dysmorphia is, but maybe having the conversation of our bodies do change, and not even in just the sense of puberty, like breasts grow, your like genitals change, things like that, or armpit hair, like the normal typical conversations that people have, but more the conversations of stretch marks appear, you know, breasts come in different sizes, so they're going to be different to other friends, like bum shapes change, bellies grow, like all these tiny different things just that make everybody so unique and individual. If we kind of had those conversations more, people won't seem unique for having such different things. It would just seem normal, and that body dysmorphia will kind of stop happening for young people, because they'll just start to understand that these changes are normal and completely valid, and it doesn't mean anything on your worth or your value in society. So yeah, I definitely do think for young people we need to be having those conversations, and then possibly then reintroducing the concepts when they're a bit older, so they have a bit more of a grounded attitude, on more of like a theoretical scale when it comes to body dysmorphia. But yeah, but just basically starting to teach young people about the perspectives straight from the get-go, so they do understand how to still treat people with kindness and their own bodies. Yeah.
Could you tell me with your own words what body dysmorphia is?
Body dysmorphia, as far as I'm concerned, is the perception of yourself and your body, and kind of presuming it's something else. And in some cases, it's usually quite a negative perception of your body, and thinking it's not worthy of anything. So for some people, it might be that they're quite slim and they see themselves as quite big, and for them that translates to something that's very negative, that's ugly or lazy. It can mean many different things, but that's kind of the common factor that most people experience.
How do you think society affects people that suffer from body dysmorphia?
So again, what I said with, I think everybody does suffer from it because of social media and the way that we've kind of created our society now. But other than that, I don't think it's addressed in any way. No one wants to have the conversation, and no one wants to challenge that conversation either. And those thoughts that we have that are actually body dysmorphia, no one wants to talk about them, therefore we can't really get any of the help. But I think it depends what we mean by society. Like, do we mean our schoolings and our governments? Because I don't think they don't want to do anything. They don't really want to challenge the subject at all. The media definitely don't want to challenge the subject, the industry, because they make money out of it. I mean, of course they're gonna hope that people with acne don't think that they're worthwhile, because otherwise they're not going to buy their beauty products anymore and no one's going to make any money. So they thrive from it at the end of the day, and that's why they don't want to challenge it. But I think as general public and that kind of area of society, I think it's something that's slowly being addressed more through social media. And like I said, because it's such a powerful essence in our lives is based around body dysmorphia now, because of social media, we have to have the conversations. We can't escape it anymore. So like the body positivity movement, more things are coming out in schoolings, more people are talking out. It is starting to happen, but it's just coming from the little people essentially, rather than, you know, the big industry and the government and the schools who are, you know, making money out of it at the end of the day. But yeah.
How do you feel about the representation of body dysmorphia, eating disorders, more specifically binge eating, in the media?
I think there is a like 1% factor of representation for body dysmorphia and binge eating. Yeah, binge eating. There's a lot more representation for people with anorexia and bulimia, and even that's still not great, and that's a very negative stereotype. But with binge eating, the only thing that I can think of that even covered binge eating was that TV show Insatiable, which just was this caricature of what it is like to have binge eating, and it was also portrayed through someone that was very glamorous and kind of glorified it a little bit, to obviously fit into Hollywood. But I think there is no representation in media at all. And until someone is morbidly obese from binge eating, that's the only time they kind of want to address it, and that's how they presume everybody with binge eating to be like, or borderline anorexic, you know. It's the extremes. They only want to portray the extremes. No one wants to portray the normal people with it.
How do you think we could, or society could, or anyone could bring awareness to people about body dysmorphia?
I think the extreme side would be making films that actually have a better portrayal of what it is like, having more education that is in the curriculum, so younger people are learning about their body image, that they are learning about eating disorders, how to handle that, how to find signs of it and coping mechanisms. To have the NHS to have more help in regards to that. That's not just talk therapies, and it's not just until you hit a number on the scale and then they go, now we can address your eating disorder. But for the smaller scale of how society can help, it's about having that conversation with your friend. It's about addressing it with your parents. I think that was something that I personally did, was like, I didn't want to have this conversation with my family. I didn't want to talk about it with my mum, because they were actually like such a huge factor. They contributed so much to my body image and the way I valued it, and not because they intentionally did so. It's just what they've internalized, but I didn't want to have the conversation, so it didn't happen. But eventually I have now had the conversation, and it's changed. They've grown in awareness, they took responsibility of learning, and, you know, taking on their own actions, and just having that conversation had such an impact. And if we felt comfortable to do that, we would be able to do a lot more change than we realize.
When you said earlier that you went to the doctor and you said, yeah, what you're experiencing right now, that's binge eating. From that point, what help did you receive?
I received no solutions from my doctors when they diagnosed me with binge eating. I think they knew that I had struggled with anxiety and negative body image and depression revolving around my breasts and my body since 14. It's been on my records for that long. However, I think they only wanted to address it now because I've now hit a number on a scale where they have said your BMI is now too high. I'm about a size 22, so I'm a big girl, but now they only want to address it because they're like, oh, now you might put pressure on the NHS. It's not, we know something traumatic is happening, it's here to help you. So I think that's the reason why I kind of got it addressed. So I had no help, I had no solution from them. yeah, it hasn't. It's been a lot of self-research on my own part because of that. Because that was as much help as I really got, other than you need to lose weight, you need to not eat when you're stressed, and we'd recommend going on like on a diet that the NHS recommend. And other than that, that was pretty much it.
Do you have anything that you wanted to add that was not in the questions that you would like to say?
No, I don't think so. I mean, no, not anything. If you don't need it.
Okay.